Welcome to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Kentucky attorney Jeff Roberts has over 25 years of experience. He'll provide answers to your questions related to personal injury and automobile accidents, workers' compensation claims, and Social Security disability benefits. Let's join Jeff for this episode. And friends, welcome back. I am in Murray, Kentucky with injury attorney Jeff Roberts. Jeff, good to see you, guy.
Good to see you, Jim.
You know, I couldn't help but as I drove down here, I noticed all the construction zone projects going on, and I thought that was very appropriate for today because we are actually going to talk about construction zone accidents, which is interesting for you because you handle both personal injury cases, car wrecks, truck wrecks, motorcycle accidents, but you also handle workers' comp. And so this may actually come into play, and at the end of the episode, we're going to talk about some of those workers' comp-related issues.
Yes. Went from a construction zone accidents in construction zone can result in clearly a personal injury case from the car wreck, but also potentially a workers' compensation claim as well. And we, like you said, we'll discuss that a little later on in the project or in the podcast from that standpoint. But this time of the year is road construction time. I mean, basically. Summertime, you see a lot of road construction taking place, all over the interstates or just in the highways and roadways around. If you travel on an interstate, you're going to run into road construction fairly regularly this time of the year to repair or expand roadways or whatever from that. Whatever they're doing.
Yeah, you see them doing a lot of bridge work right about now. And what's interesting is that and in previous episodes we've talked about, in this area of Western Kentucky, we've got a lot of state roads, a lot of county roads as well, and all those maintenance teams are out. All those contracts are up, so people are out there really trying to improve it. So we've got to be careful as drivers, that's for sure. But
and some federal interstates.
And definitely all over the federal interstates, absolutely. So let's talk about this a little bit. As we were prepping, we went back and looked at the most recent Kentucky State Police data, and this is coming from the 2022 report, which is also available online if you go to the Kentucky State Police, kentucky.gov, I believe is the website. But there were 804 collisions that dealt with roadway construction, and unfortunately that resulted in 5 fatal collisions. We don't know how many actual fatalities happened. There could be several people in one vehicle at the time, but that's a lot. It's a lot of fatal collisions, and the reality is, this is a dangerous time of year. I know everybody's excited. We've talked about summertime driving and all that other stuff, and you kind of get excited about vacations and all, but this is a dangerous time of the year for people that are out on the roads.
It is. This time of the year, you have, first off, I think the traffic is greater during summertime a lot because people going on vacations. So you have people coming through Kentucky and driving on the roadways that may not be as familiar with those roads as people who drive on them on a daily or frequent basis, which can make it a little bit more dangerous. And then you add road construction into that mix at times. Some people get road rage fairly quickly. Some people, when they've been on the road for a few hours, start getting a little more anxious about things and drive a little more aggressively for whatever reason in that situation, which can result in some serious injuries, serious collisions on the roadway. And when you were talking about the state police data, it talks about roadway construction. In the 804 collisions that occurred around a roadway construction, but it has it broke down again, or another category, which is maintenance utility work, which kind of falls under the same two, at least from my standpoint. You got to, the roadway is blocked or in part at least because of some sort of activity that may not be working on the roadway itself, but working on the power lines. When storms come through, power lines go down, and you've got the utility workers there, and the roadways are blocked off, and you've got to be paying attention from that standpoint. But that was another 279 collisions. So in that time period that they were doing in this 2022 report, you had over 1,000, nearly 1,100 collisions because of roadway construction or utility construction in the area.
Well, I think as I look at kind of the previous episodes that we've recorded, back in episode 63, we talked about multiple vehicle collisions, and a lot of times that's what you're going to see. You're going to see that maybe they've, maybe the guys have come out with a stop sign saying, hey, stop, we're moving some equipment across the roadway or whatever. If you're not paying attention, I mean, you could see cars stacking up very quickly, and somebody comes speeding up, not paying attention. Unfortunately, that can happen. You've actually kind of got something similar to that going on.
Yeah, I've got cases going on now from vehicles being stopped because of roadway work, and in my career I've handled those in the past as well. And you see that with these type of accidents on interstates, especially where traffic is backed up because of roadway construction, maybe because of another accident that's on and the road's blocked off partially or completely, and you've got traffic backed up from there, and then somebody coming along who's not paying attention, and when they hit the car right in front of them that is stopped, and they knock them to the car in front of them and keeps on going and you see that frequently, and you can see some very, very serious injuries. I've handled cases where, unfortunately, the driver that wasn't paying attention was driving a semi, and when that semi hits that the vehicle right in front of it, a lot of times they keep pushing into several vehicles and sometimes right up on the vehicles, and you can see some very serious injuries that occur and deaths that occur in those situations, sadly, from that, which is, that's the reason that you need, when you're on the road, it doesn't matter what's taking place, you don't need to be distracted. You need to be focusing on the roadway and on the traffic in front of you and traffic coming up from behind you as well. There, not looking at text messages or doing anything that's distracting you and taking you away from paying attention to driving.
Yeah, and the thing that always surprises me is we have so much, these big trucks, the tractor trailers on the road, that you're not able to see kind of what's in front of them. If it's a regular car, I can kind of see through their windshield or up and around them. But with these tractor trailers, you don't really know what's going on a few cars up, and sometimes you come to a very abrupt stop. And it's just, I'm amazed at how quickly it happens. So, I do a lot of interstate driving with my job, and it never ceases to amaze me how quickly the traffic patterns change.
Exactly, and they can change very, very quickly. And what I've noticed as well is, especially I see this, I don't know why, but I see it more on interstates, probably because of more vehicles there, but people driving down the interstate going 70 mile an hour or sometimes even faster than 70 miles an hour and only have a very short distance between their vehicle and the vehicle in front of them. And as you talk about, there's times you can see through and see the brake lights of the cars up in front of them and can see if traffic is slowing down and take some action at that point. But sometimes you're behind a semi where you can't, or behind a vehicle that's bigger than you, a truck that's bigger than you, and you can't see through in that situation. And they're driving very, 1 second behind if you take speed-wise thing from that. They're less than 1 second behind that person. And if they have to hit their brakes very fast, with your reaction time, you unless you're really, really quick, you're very well could be striking their vehicle if they're braking very fast because of something going on in front of them, and it can result in significant injuries for you, for passengers in your vehicle, or for the vehicle that you're striking. From that, and nobody wants to injure someone else, especially friends or family members in their own car. But when you drive real close to another vehicle and don't put enough distance in between you and that other vehicle, you're running that risk. And I know some think, well, if I get too far back, another car is going to jump in between us or something of that nature. Well, that's much better off than your passenger having multiple fractures in their leg or more serious injuries even than that because you rear-ended the vehicle in front of you.
And friends, if you want to visit episode 49, Jeff did a full episode on distracted and drowsy driving, and a lot of times that's what happens. You know, it could be a trucker who's been on the road for quite a period of time. It could be somebody, as you said, checking their text messages, changing the radio, paying attention to the kids in the back. I mean, all of this stuff. Heck, we did the holiday driving, talking about Christmas, and having the green bean casserole in the back,
Exactly.
and worried about spilling that. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that can distract us on the road. But when you're around summer construction projects, any types of construction projects, when you're driving, you've got that heightened responsibility that you really, really need to say, hey, this stuff can wait because this is much more important.
Exactly. And one thing I do see on interstates generally is you get advance notice a lot of times. Now, sometimes the traffic is backed up. If it's road construction, sometimes if it's a really, really busy road and, you got a 3-lane road that goes down to 1 lane because they've got 2 lanes blocked off, it can back up past where those warning signs are at times. But frequently you have a sign, road construction ahead, type signs that give you a warning. On some of the county roads, for instance, that aren't interstates, you may not have as much of an advanced warning, especially like a utility. I mentioned that earlier. I've been driving down the road before, top a hill, and there'll be a utility vehicle on the other side of the hill, far enough I could stop it. Normally they try to give you that, but sometimes you don't have as much of an advanced warning on those roads there. And when it's I know we're talking about road construction here, but if you had another accident that's blocking the road, you don't have those signs backing it up. And with road construction or these other situations, that is one benefit to some of the apps that we have now, applications on phones, like Waze and some others that will warn you about road construction ahead. And you can set it where you don't have to look at it. It will voice tell you road construction ahead or accident ahead type situation and give you a warning to let you know to, be even more vigilant. You should be being vigilant anyway, but be even more vigilant in that situation. From there, if you use those apps when you're traveling, that they can be helpful in that regard. Now, if you're sitting there looking at the map instead of the roadway, that's not going to be helpful. But those can be helpful to give you advanced warning at times, but don't rely on them completely either.
Right. There's a lot of things just aren't reported, and depending, you may be the other one on the road at that time.
Correct. And I see, I use some of those or have used those in the past when I'm driving. And if you do and you want to report, let a passenger do the reporting of what you witnessed. Don't try to do it yourself. Because if you're driving, if you try to report that there's a pothole in the road or a vehicle stopped on the side of the road, whatever it is that you're trying to report on there, if you're doing it yourself, then now you're driving distracted.
Jeff, over the years, we've done a lot of podcast episodes in dealing with tractor-trailer accidents and things like that. But when you get into these zones, I mean, you've got some large construction machinery and large construction vehicles that are coming in and out of the lanes of traffic. And again, just like we did in some of these summertime driving tips, you got to understand they accelerate differently, they slow down differently, and you just got to exercise some increased caution because, again, everybody wants to get home safely.
Absolutely. And that you'll see that frequently where when they're repaving a dump truck with asphalt will be trying to get in and sometimes have to come to a complete stop while somebody moves a cone out of the way or something so they can get over, or they're getting out and then trying to after they've unloaded to pull away, and so they're going at a very, very slow rate of speed until they get back up to speed when they first pull out. And if you're not paying close attention to that, then you can be up on them very, very quickly in that situation. And not just the dump trucks, but sometimes the equipment that they're using on the roadway, they've got to move it from one place to the other, and they get out on the travel portion at times. And hopefully they've got somebody flagging and stopping people and to allow them to do that. But and hopefully they're looking very closely before they pull out. But if you're not paying attention and looking for that, the person who is directing the traffic in that situation and watching what they are and whether it says stop or slow down or whatever it is that they're telling you to do, you can end up being in a wreck very quickly.
Well, and it's interesting because it's not just a collision with the vehicle. It could be a collision with a wall that suddenly has closed off a lane. You see these concrete barriers that they put up. One thing I see a lot of is those yellow buckets that they're now using. They're not just the cones anymore. They're using actual big yellow. They look like garbage cans almost. And people have clipped those, so they may be sitting around, rolling around. Maybe the wind's blowing them over somewhere. And so people are swerving. So there's a lot more to deal with. And I know this seems like common sense, but unfortunately in your line of work as an injury attorney who deals with, again, car wrecks, motorcycle accidents, tractor-trailer collisions, sometimes it's the common sense factor that just wasn't there when the accident happened.
Exactly, and then other people are having to pay for the aftermath, and that's who I end up representing. I do these podcasts. One of the things, this one has been, to some extent, we did summer driving tips not too long ago.
Episode 79.
Yeah, and I do motorcycle safety tips and do more like a PSA type situations to prevent it, to try to prevent these type of accidents for people who listen and hopefully pay attention and follow some of the tips that we give from that, because I don't really, if you're injured in one, give me a call and I'll do my best, but I would much prefer the collision not occur and the people not get injured.
Speaking of giving you a call, you actually have two offices. Today we're sitting down here in Calloway County. This has been your primary office for 32 years now. And then you've also got an office up in Hopkinsville, up in Christian County.
Yes, I opened up an office in Hopkinsville in Christian County, coming up on a year now that I've had that office opened. I believe August 1st, 5th, something like that, of last year's when that office, when I first opened it up and started meeting with clients up there. But yeah, I have my main office, I say, here in Murray, in Calloway County, and then, but I do meet clients in Hopkinsville. I have a lot of clients up in that area, and have for years, and it's worked out well to go up there and meet with clients there, and I like being in Hopkinsville. It's a really good community. Murray's a really good community. I use one phone number for both. That way, if you call, you're going to be able my office can contact me regardless of which office I'm at that day. The office can contact me. So the phone number is 270-753-0053 if you want to call me, or I do have an 800 number, 1-800-844-5108. As well, but if you call that number, you can reach me whether I'm at the Murray office or at the Hopkinsville office.
Now, Jeff, one of the other areas of law that you practice and have for quite a long time is workers' comp. And so this is where you're hurt on the job. And what's interesting about road construction accidents, we always think, well, are you talking about the highway construction guys? Yeah, but you might also be a sales rep or a delivery driver who's driving on the job and is involved in a wreck. So there could be multiple types of claims that need to be filed, which you can handle both of them. But let's talk specifically for a minute about if you are a construction worker who's working on the roadway. Maybe you've got a state or a county, project that you're working on. Obviously, this is a workers' comp claim potentially.
Correct. In that situation, if you're at work at a road construction site, and a car is not paying attention and hits you or hits something else and knocks it into you, then you have the workers' compensation claim because you were on the job when you were injured. So you have the workers' compensation claim that you can and should pursue because that's going to be primary on paying your medical bills. And also, the workers' compensation claim is going to pay for your lost wages while you are off work because of that injury. And so you need, even though there's a car accident component to the claim, you need to make sure the workers' compensation claim is filed. And so you're getting those medical and those lost wage benefits there. But there's also then the personal injury claim or the car wreck case against the at-fault driver who caused the accident and caused your injury that you can pursue. The workers' compensation claim, there's certain damages that you can receive in workers' comp, and then there's different damages that you can receive in a car accident case. Some of those damages overlap. Medical, lost wages, those type of damages do overlap. From there, workers' comp, you cannot get pain and suffering. You can get pain and suffering in a car wreck case, and so there's damages that don't overlap as well. Those cases can be confusing, and frankly, if you've got both cases going on, you definitely need to reach out to an attorney in that situation because if you don't do things correctly, it can end up costing you to where you're having to send money back to the workers' comp insurance carrier out of your pocket if you don't handle everything the way it's supposed to be handled in those cases. So it's important to make sure you're coordinating both of those claims. As you mentioned, I handle both of them, so normally I'm handling both sides, so clearly they're coordinated because I know what's going on in both since I'm handling both. There's times where I'm handling the workers' comp and somebody else is handling the car wreck case aspect of it. They bring me in on the workers' comp, and we coordinate. There's times where there are some attorneys who do workers' comp who don't do car wrecks, several that are that way, and if they know I handle car wreck cases, and so I've had attorneys who have the workers' comp component and then bring me in to handle the personal injury component of the claim because they don't handle that type of case themselves. So it can work out either way or any of those different ways from that situation.
I think what's interesting about that scenario is that a lot of times the person who's been injured doesn't realize there's another claim out there. They're thinking, okay, this is just comp because I was hurt on the job, so I'm just going to pursue my workers' comp benefits, and they're not really thinking about, no, wait a minute, there's a third party claim here that has a number of different factors, and that's where it makes a lot of sense to at least pick up the phone, call Jeff. It's a free consultation anyway, and explain kind of what happened, and you can kind of walk them through kind of, okay, here's kind of what's at play, and then if they want to move forward, obviously they've got someone who can handle both sides of those cases, which is kind of nice.
Correct. I've seen it that way, and I've seen it the other way too, though, where instead of they say, well, it happened on the job, so it's workers' comp, I've had several come in about the car wreck case.
Interesting.
And I said, well, you've got a workers' comp claim, and they said, well, my employer didn't do anything wrong. It was this other driver. Why should my employer have to pay? And I have to explain to them that workers' comp is technically a no-fault type claim. If you're on the job when you're injured, you've got a workers' compensation claim, except in a few very limited circumstances from there. And that workers' comp is primary actually on paying the medical bills and can also, in the car wreck case, you rarely get lost wages, but if you do from PIP, which we've talked about several times before, you're limited to $200 a week, which in 1977, when that law came into being, was probably covered most people. Now it doesn't cover hardly anybody as far as what they've lost there, and workers' comp pays substantially greater. So if you're off for 3 months, you don't want to be limited to $200 a week. You want to get that workers' comp check that's going to pay you 2/3 of what your average weekly wage was versus the $200 a week. And when I sat down and explain it to people, they understand the need for pursuing both claims in that regard. And the comp insurance usually is going to get reimbursed, if not all, at least a substantial portion of later on. And that's where I say you need somebody who's coordinating and knows that, because if they don't, then that can come back and be a problem for the injured person, because if they don't take care of reimbursing the comp carrier, when the money comes in and they don't negotiate and get that reduced down, then they can come back later on to where they say, you owe us money back.
It was interesting. You were talking about the cap, from PIP, which is personal injury protection, no fault coverage, basic reparations, benefits. We've covered that in a number of different episodes. But in episode 77, we specifically spoke about it. We answered the question, how are my workers' compensation benefits calculated? And we talked about the average weekly wage calculation, which actually surprisingly can include compensation from a second job that may be totally unrelated. So again, really understanding the value of the Kentucky workers' comp benefits are significant. So be sure you're talking to an attorney who understands, knows, and has experience dealing with workers' comp when it's workers' comp related. When it's a workplace injury, you need a work comp lawyer.
Yes, and I don't see, used to, at one time I would see attorneys who dabbled in workers' comp. They'd handle 1-2 cases a year. If they got one in that they thought was going to be a valuable case, they would kind of dabble in those cases. I don't see that as much anymore, and I'm glad, because workers' comp is an animal unto itself from the legal system standpoint, and if you don't do that a lot and keep up to date with the changes in the law and the changes that can occur from court decisions frequently, then your client can end up paying the price for that. So over time, I just don't see that occurring like it used to occur, and I'm glad to see that, to be honest, because I have seen some people who've ended up getting substantially less than what they should have gotten from that, and seen some attorneys who got sued because they didn't handle the claim correctly, and don't want to see either of those things occur from that. So go to an attorney who handles workers' compensation cases is very, very important to find out what you're entitled to from that. And the same with the car wreck. Attorneys still dabble in those, but go to somebody who does personal injury cases, and that's what they concentrate in, and because they're going to be more familiar with the laws than those who, that don't. I cannot use the term specialized, because Kentucky doesn't certify specialties, but if you have an attorney who tries to do everything, in my opinion, it's really, really hard to keep up with all the changes in the law if you're trying to handle a whole bunch of different areas of law versus concentrating in a few areas where you can keep up. And that's what I try to concentrate on: personal injury cases, car wrecks, truck wrecks, motorcycle wrecks, workers' comp, Social Security, disability, and those type of things.
And those all generally gravitate toward some type of injury. I mean, so it's all injury law for you.
Yeah, it's all injury law.
It just depends on which system is going to come into play.
Physical injuries are what I handle from that, and I do get involved in some other types of injury cases as well: premises liability, medical negligence type cases as well. That's a smaller portion of my practice. But I do handle those and keep up to date with those type of cases as well.
Yeah. Well, as we begin to wrap up the episode, one of the other sides of the comp that we introduced was so you're not the highway worker, you're not the construction worker. You may be on the job traveling or driving for business, and suddenly you're in a collision. And we've spoken about this in previous episodes, but this is where you still have that third-party claim, where you have the work comp claim because you're driving as part of your job, your normal activities. But then you also have the personal injury claim, the normal car wreck claim. Do you want to talk about that for a bit?
Correct. Yeah. If you're injured on the job, while you're on the job working, and the injury is a result of negligence from someone else. Car wreck, and another driver's the one who causes the wreck and is at fault in causing the wreck. Then you have like the construction worker, you have the workers' compensation claim that you need to pursue, as well as the claim against the at-fault driver. And so, yeah, it's just, even though you're not the construction worker who got hurt on the job, if you're on the job, you're a salesman who has to travel, and you're on the job at the time of the collision, then that you're still covered by workers' comp in that regard. And I've handled several cases like that where my clients, part of their job was traveling. It may be a home health nurse or safe light window replacement driver who goes to the customer's homes to put the windows in, or wherever the customer's at to put the windshields in, and then they are injured traveling during their employment. Anything like that, if your job requires travel and you're injured during that travel, it's still covered under workers' comp.
That could, like you said, that could be a regular sales rep who's got a field territory. That could be a FedEx or a UPS driver, even.
Exactly.
Somebody who's
Yes.
driving because that's what they do. But now, the more than comp comes into play, which is kind of interesting. Actually,
Yes.
a lot of people don't really think of it in those terms.
Correct. Yeah, you've got two cases, and as I said before, they need to be coordinated.
Yeah. And for instance, obviously we're talking about accidents that happen in construction zones, and not to end the podcast on a somber note, but some from time to time traffic fatalities do obviously happen. We stated from the Kentucky State Police report for 2022 there were 5 fatal collisions, and then on the other category there was another one, so it was 6 fatal collisions in 2022. We don't know how many people were involved because it was just number of collisions, not number of passengers.
Right. This is talking about the number
Yeah.
of actual wrecks that occurred, not the number of people who passed away in those. So some of those could have been multiple fatalities. Hopefully not, but could have been.
But friends, I would like to draw your attention to episode 57, where Jeff did actually speak specifically about traffic fatalities. Because again, all throughout Western Kentucky, we've got a lot of roadways, we've got a lot of commerce going on, we've got a lot of heavy truck traffic, and obviously construction traffic, and all of those present risk. You could be a motorcyclist, or motorcycle fatalities happen. It doesn't have to be with a big truck. It could be with daggone near anybody who's changing lanes or making a turn or going through a red light or a stoplight. And again, these tragic situations do occur. But if your loved one has been involved in a traffic fatality, your friend has been involved in a traffic fatality, you might want to go back and listen to episode 57 for some information. It might be something you pass on to the family. And then, of course, the biggest thing is, get a hold of Jeff. I mean, Jeff's got the experience. He's down here in Western Kentucky. But, Jeff, I mean, in 2 weeks, you're coming up to Louisville to work on a case up there. I mean, you handle cases throughout the state for both workers' comp and personal injury.
Correct. I do. I handle cases all over the state and have handled cases from Paducah to Pikeville and do workers' comp and car wrecks all over. And got cases going on in multiple different communities now, not just Western Kentucky, but in Louisville. I've got several clients in the Louisville area at this point, and in other locations as well. So I handle cases, and really with the I like face-to-face interactions, and I travel to Louisville and to other communities fairly often. In Bowling Green as well, quite a bit, and represent several clients up in that area. And so I travel to those areas. And when I do, I usually, like I have the hearing in Louisville coming up later this week, or not this week, but this month, and we'll be meeting other clients when I'm up there for that hearing. And so, but I also do meet with clients over the phone or by video conference, Zoom, so we can have face-to-face conversations. We're just not in the same room. So yeah, if you're in Western Kentucky, call me. If you're outside Western Kentucky, but you like what you see on my website and what you hear on these podcasts and want to talk with me about your case, give me a call, and we'll see what we can do for you.
Jeff, I want to thank you for your time. I know there's a lot going on. I know this is a busy time of year. Always good to see you, but these are great conversations. I really enjoy the way you kind of break down complicated factors and make it understandable, because the law is confusing. It's complex, obviously. And knowing there's somebody out there that can just kind of give me the normal, well, okay, what does this really mean? And I love how you break down this content for us, these concepts. Friends, I want to thank you as well for your time. And I want to encourage you to check out the podcast. You can find it on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. You can find it on his website, jeffrobertslaw.com. But there's a tremendous amount of information out there. This is episode 82, so we've been doing quite a few of these over the past several years. So there's a lot of content out there, a lot of good information, a lot of easy to understand information about very complex topics. And I hope you'll find it very helpful. So once again, from all of us here at the Roberts Law Office in Murray, and also now in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, wish you the best. We'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, listeners.
Thank you for listening to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Jeff will return in 2 weeks. Until then, he invites you to visit jeffrobertslaw.com and follow his firm on Facebook. At the Roberts Law Office, you'll find a history of small town service and big city results.